Okay, I know you had a brief introduction to it with Bob, but if you had to explain to someone that has never used it before what Node is, with your understanding right now, what would you explain? How would you describe what Node is?
Node is a tool which allows you to write JavaScript.
So Node is a tool that allows you to write JavaScript. JavaScript code, and I'm going to switch the word server for locally. We don't need a web browser to run our JavaScript or write our JavaScript. I can just pop up in the console and say, run my file. Node, run my file, and it's running the JavaScript engine that Chrome uses, but it's running it locally. Who has run into this issue? So let's get an index HTML. You may see where this is going if you've had this issue. We'll add a script tag. We'll add our JavaScript to it. And then in my app.js, I'm going to try to console log the document, which is defined, right? JavaScript knows what this is because I'm linked to an HTML page. And in fact, if I hit go live, it's going to load in the browser just fine. However, what if I try to run this with Node? Documents not defined. So Node is a pure JavaScript engine. It does not understand document. It does not understand a .css file unless we teach it how to read those files and use them. But it does open up this playground to where we can write entire programs using JavaScript, where before Node, you didn't write programs with JavaScript. You wrote them with Python or C or Java. Those were your programming languages. JavaScript is strictly for web development on the web, but now it can be used for front end, back end, what have you. But because of that, it is just the JavaScript engine. It doesn't know web development by default, so we can't. Once we're linked to an HTML page, if you try to run your JavaScript file in Node, it will break every time. Okay, but it does allow us to write JavaScript. So if I console log something else, like hello world, and run it now, I'll see it just fine. Cool, so any questions on like the basic of Node, what it is?
Why are the colors on here?
I changed my theme to the one that I use locally on my computer. If you want to play with theming, it's kind of fun. Click on code instead of VS Code, go to preferences and then color theme. I think we were using dark, the basic visual, yeah, the VS Code basic. My favorite personally is the Monokai. Some pretty vivid colors, but there's all sorts of themes. You can install other ones. Just find something that works for you. If you want to burn people's eyes, you can choose to use a light theme. That will make you feel like you're coding in the 90s again, where they did everything in Notepad or just on a piece of paper with punch holes. We've evolved, and I think more and more people are a fan of dark themes. So Monokai. So one I'll be using. And if it gets hard to read, let me know. As far as like if it's too dim or something, we can play with different themes. This one's usually the most vivid from what I found. Okay, so Node is great because while we can write our own JavaScript, we don't have to write all of it. There are millions of developers that have lived and have written JavaScript for us. We can install their code and use it without ever having to write it. We just bring it into our application and start using it. And Node allows us to do that through a mechanism called NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager. So a Node package or an NPM package is just a bundle of JavaScript code somebody else made that you can install and start just using right out of the box. A really big example of an NPM package, React. React is an NPM package. You install it, and then you can start writing your code the React way, which we'll see in a few weeks. Let's look at their website, though, just to get an idea of what this is, because you'll be visiting this site frequently when you're looking for some help. So let's go to npm, is it npmjs.com? build amazing things. Okay. So this is one of the largest open source package providers on the web right now. And there are literally millions of packages of JavaScript code we can install. So I can just come to their homepage and look up React, for example. And here is React. It's installed by 4.9 million people a week. So we know it's pretty safe. A lot of people use it. If you see a number lower than 10 on here, it's a big red signal that what you're installing might not work. And if it does, they may not explain how it works. Because not only is the code important, but how to use the code is equally as important, because we're just pulling in functions someone else wrote. There should be clear documentation showing us how to use it. So, NPM, it's a wonderful thing. We are going to install our first package and use it for the next week, just to get to know NPM and a singular package. So if everybody would please create a directory in your exercises folder called maybe NPM intro or intro to NPM. And we're all going to do this command together because, well, you'll end up doing this command hundreds of times, but at first we just need to get it memorized. So create your directory, just make an app.js file. We do not need HTML because we're not making an HTML site, we're making a JavaScript application. Exercises probably, unless you have like your own little subfolders that you're using for things. But if you just have exercises and projects, this is an exercise. Yeah, like intro to NPM or NPM, yeah, whatever works best for you to come back to later if you need it. Because we're going to write down the essential commands that we got to learn right now to interact with NPM, and also how to use those packages once we install them. And there's a couple of new things we're going to look at here. So I'll give you another minute to get this up, and we'll get going. Some water. Okay. So whenever we're developing in Node, there's a couple Node conventions we need to stick to. This is a Node project because it is just JavaScript. And in fact, I'm just going to delete this file so it's not distracting. We are just making a Node project, so all that we have is JavaScript. Well, Node, it's every time you start a new project, you want to initialize your Node project. And there's a standard file that does that for you. So the first command we'll learn is how to initialize a Node project. The command for that is npm init. And then if we don't want to answer all the questions it's going to ask us, we can say yes to everything, npm init-y. So let me just do this command by myself, and let's look at it, and then I'll have you run the full one. So I want to initialize this project or this folder as an npm or node project. So I'm going to say npm initialize, which says start a new project. And this is now a utility that pops up that asks me, what's your project about? So first, I'll hit enter. It's asking me, is that a good version number? Sure. Do you want to give me a description of your project? My first npm project. Sure. Entry point app.js. Yeah, that's the file I'm using. Test command, I don't care. Git repository, keywords, author, license, MIT, or none. Is this okay? Yes. All right. What has changed about my folder? Yeah, this file just magically appeared after I answered all these questions. So if I go into package.json, I see this, it almost looks like a JavaScript object, but what's different about it? This versus a JavaScript object, what's the key difference we're seeing? Okay, so we didn't declare a variable, it's just open close bracket. What else? Yes. So this is actually its own little language. It's called JSON. And we're going to go into depth on JSON next week. But the noticeable difference is all you do is declare an object, and that key and value pairs both have to be in double quotes. If not, JSON breaks. Now, we're not setting up this file ourselves. NPM will always do it for us. But keys and values must be in double quotes, and you cannot put a comma after your last entry, or else that will also break it. Very picky. Other than that, that's JSON. Those are the differences. So this is the manifest. This is our main instructions on what our node project is. Here's the name of our project. It will default to the name of our directory. It starts at version 1 in case we update our project later. We can update the version, a description about it, what file is the main file to look at when running this, and so forth. So now that I've done this, all of you run this full command. Remember, it asked me a bunch of questions. We don't really need to answer those questions. It's honestly not that important. So if you say -y, it answers the default and will just immediately make this file for you. So run this command, and everyone should have a package.json show up in their directory. So open up your terminal, control backtick, and then down here in your terminal, just where you'd write like cd, write npm init-y. And hit enter. And as soon as you hit enter, you should see this pop up. Did anyone not see a package.json show up? Try typing it again. It will show up. Who else is getting NPM command not found? So that means node package manager is not installed. One sec, let's debug that, please.
Wait, are we doing this in exercise or are we doing this
In this folder. If you do it in the exercise folder, you're making a package.json for your entire exercise folder. We want to do it per project or per exercise. Typo, got it. Yeah, if you say something like this, nom init-y, nom, command not found. Right, because it's NPM, not nom. Or however you wrote it. NPN will also not work. Yeah, so NPM is the command. Think of NPM just like node. It's a command we can use in our console. All right, so now our node project is initialized. We're ready to start installing and using other users' packages. Does everyone have a package.json? Yes. Okay, let's get you a package.json. Anyone else? No package.json. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Yeah, this isn't an installation, it just names the file. Yes, they won't have right now. Yeah, and you will see, like, let me delete my package.json. You can delete these if you accidentally do it wrong, or you put it in the wrong place. npm init-y, it will console log to me what the package.json file looks like. It'll also create the file and put it in my directory. Yeah, for right now, let's keep all these as what they are, because changing some of these can break your program. So let's just kind of leave this manifest file sitting where it is. We just want to make sure we're creating it whenever we're making a node project. So would you make a package.json for Mario Pest Control? Why? Why would we not?
We're working outside of JavaScript.
Yeah, we're working on HTML. We're working on a website that has JavaScript in it. So in that case, we're not using Node. We don't need to package JSON. But now we're just writing JavaScript. We're writing it with Node because that's where we're going to run our whole program, is right here in the terminal. Let's make a package JSON with this command when we start. Yeah, this terminal is the exact same thing as this terminal. So I could do everything in here if that's easier. I just kind of like doing it because I know that when I'm in my project, I'm always in the folder for my current project. So I'm not accidentally doing things in the wrong place. All right, now the fun part. Let's install somebody else's code. So the package that you're going to get used to or get to know over the next week and end up making an entire project with is one called Readline-sync. Yeah, let me get this bumped up a bit for our friends in the back half of the room. Okay, Readline-sync. This is just one of the millions of packages available to you. It has quite a few downloads. We know it's safe. And what this is, it's a built-in tool or a built tool in JavaScript that you can use to ask the user for information and use their information and give them answers, all via the console. How many of you know the game Oregon Trail? Or like those old like console games where it's like you choose the door on the left, door on the right, you say right, something else happens. You can make games like that with Readline-sync. It's all done in the console. There's no web page. But this comes with a lot of nifty pre-built functions you can just use to make a game with, or any sort of interactive console software. All NPM packages will start off with something like this. Brief description of what it is and what versions, what license it's under. Most things are MIT, so they're open source. And then it shows you the most simple version of its code that it can to show you how to work it. And right now, when we're looking at that, it may not make any sense, right? We haven't seen most of this before. We're going to focus on this for the next minute or two. So var readline-sync equals require, whatever that is, and then the string readline-sync. Got it. I need to adhere to this strictly. They're doing this for a reason. So in your JavaScript file, we need to install this package before we can use it. Did anyone spot the how to install it? It's on the page right now. Notice the command NPM, Node Package Manager. So here's another command we can do with NPM. We can say npm I, which is short for the word install, and then the name of the package we want to install. So here's the next command we're learning, how to install a package. Don't do this to me now. It's thinking. How to install an NPM package. We say npm install and then the package name. And those caret brackets are not the syntax. That's just saying this is a placeholder. Now, you don't have to say the whole word install. You can. The shorthand is the letter I. So you can also say npm I, the package name. But what's the name of the package we're installing? Readline-sync. So do we install it like this with that word camel cased? No, we look at their install command and we see how they wrote it. So the name of the package is readline-sync. I'll write this here. So readline-sync. So let me do this first so we can see it, and then I'll have you all do it. Unless you already have, that's fine. We're going to do two things at once here. I'm going to write the command in here, hit enter, and tell me if you see anything change in my package JSON. It's going to start installing, and ooh, what happened? Yep, a package lock.json showed up. That's interesting. And then this dependencies object also was created in my package JSON. What does the word dependency make you think of innately? Dependent. My application is dependent on this program to work. In order to use my program, if you download my code for the thing that I'm about to make, it will not run unless you also have Readline-sync installed, because that's what I use to make it. So that's literally what that's saying. These are the programs I use to make my program. It is a dependency. And if we install 100, this object will have 100 items in it showing the different packages we used. Additionally, a package lock.json showed up. You will never touch this or have a need to. It's just more information for Node about the packages we installed. You, in fact, will never have to look in here. Just let it be, don't delete it. It's more of like meta information about each package. Like right here, it just says, here's the package and here's the version number you installed. The package lock, it does the same dependencies object, but then per dependency gives you the version, what's the URL it pulled it from, something about integrity. I don't even know what that means. We should never touch it. Just let it be there. What's that? Should work just fine. Packages understand when they update it. People have used the previous versions. They'll try to be backwards compatible. Sometimes, though, you have to update. But this is the nice thing. What else showed up in my directory over here? Node modules. We're just getting an onslaught of new files and stuff. Well, node modules is where all of this code is installed that we take from the internet. So I open up node modules, and there's a little folder in here for Readline-sync. If I open that up, I get this lib folder and a README for how to use it. If I go into the lib, here's the entire package, all the code for it. So I can actually go into here and see all the code they wrote to make this package. I definitely don't want to change any of this because it works as is. Don't make me break it and have to reinstall it. But here's what we actually installed, was all this. All this code that we don't ever have to write. And you can see it is quite the list over here on the right. We're how many lines now? This one is 1,300 lines long, this one file. So there's about 1,500 lines of code we didn't have to write. How great. So as you install more packages, node modules will get full more and more with other things. Okay, so if you haven't, NPM install Readline-sync. Let's get that going. So run this command exactly as it's written here.
Okay, I did it, and I'm showing my folder that I got that stuff, but inside might be yesterday, the stuff.
What stuff?
Like the lock JSON.
Did the node modules folder show up? Did you install it in the directory that you're in? That's awesome. Anyone else not able to show up? Cool. Okay. We're almost at the point where we can use it. So first 2 steps when setting up a node project. What's step number 1? Initialize your project with npm init-y so you get your package JSON. What's step 2? Install stuff. When I say the word stuff, I'm now going to say the word dependencies. Install all needed dependencies. For the project we're about to work on, all we need is Readline-sync. Later on, by the end of the course, we'll have about 20 packages we use consistently in a full stack app. So we'll learn a lot of these. That's why we're going to spend a good week on just one, get to know the process. All right, at this point, we are ready to start coding. I'm actually going to move this over to a notes file. So we can use our JavaScript file. Okay, so how do I pull in Readline-sync from this folder? Well, no, what's that?
Is it?
It's not zipped. It is fully available here. Here's all the code. But we don't want to have to, I mean, we could try to open HTML, but no, we don't want to do any of that. We want to do just JavaScript. So Node has a reserved word to do this for us. The word that we're looking for is require, and it's a method. So require is synonymous with import. We are trying to import some code. So what we put in the parentheses is what are we trying to import? We put the string version of the package we want. And notice, just by typing quotes, it's like, hey, you have this one package. Is this what you want to import? If we have a bunch, this list would be long. So I'll just type out readline-sync. And feel free to do this as well if you would like. So require is a method built by Node that will automatically look in a Node modules folder for a Node module by the name that you give it. We can also use this for our own files, but for right now, we're just going to use it for packages that we've installed. Well, this is just like a function, so how do I save a reference to something a function gives me? var, yeah, well, not today. No more var. So should I do let or const? Yeah, I don't want to be able to overwrite the package that I'm needing for my program. So right now I'm just going to declare this as readline. This is my own variable, right? So I can choose to call this whatever I want, but I'm going to name this variable something that lets me know what it is. It is the whole readline package. So this goes and gets all the code and saves it in the variable for me so I can use it in the rest of my program. Let's take a look at this package for a second. And then we'll go look at the docs on how to use it. I'm going to console.log readline my variable there and run this with Node to see what happens. Whew. So first question, what data type is readline? It's an object. There's the opening bracket. There's the closing bracket. What is inside this object? Functions. This is an object full of functions. So there is a readline dot key in, that's a function. There's a readline dot prompt, that's a function. A readline dot question, that's a function. And we can use all of these just by accessing this like a regular object, because that's what it is. So if I console log readline dot question and run this again, let's see what that looks like. It's a function, cool. So we found the readline.question function. Only problem is we don't know what it does or how to use it. So where would I go to look to see how to use this? Any guess? Where could I find the documentation on Readline-sync? README is one option. You could dig into Node modules and find it, but usually that's just a big text file. It could be a little harder to follow. Let's go to NPM's Readline-sync page where all the documentation is. A bunch of examples of what you can do with it, how to use it, along with, yeah, I mean, I think their entire package documentation is on this one page. And as you can see, this package is huge. You have to memorize all of it. I'm just kidding. There's like 2 things from it we'll be using, and that's all you need. Just know that there's a lot. So what's the first function we're trying to learn? Question. What is that? Okay, so let's scroll down. Hey, look. They did require readline-sync, and they saved it as a variable called readline-sync. That was their choice. We chose readline. That's fine. It's just a variable. Then they're showing us an example of how to use the package in a simple way. So they're saying readline.sync or readline-sync.question. In the parentheses, they're putting a question, and they're also setting this equal to a variable and then console logging that. So let's try it. See what it does, because we don't know. So I'm going to say var const answer equals readline.question. And then I'll put a question in here. What is your favorite color? And then I'm going to, at this point, I'm just going to run the program. I'm going to see what happens. Node, app.js. Oh, that's nice. A little prompt shows up in the window. What is your favorite color? I will say blue and hit enter. Oh, the program's over. So at this point, what do we think's happening here? Yeah, it actually stopped here. It literally put this question in the console for me and allowed me to answer. As soon as I answered, I wrote the word blue and hit enter. The program finished because there's no more code. So how about I console.log, your favorite color is answer. Whatever you gave me, I'm going to send that back to you and show you in a sentence. Now we get to run our program again. Node app.js. What is your favorite color? Say green this time. Your favorite color is green. So everyone try this exercise. Get Readline-sync to ask a question, give it an answer, and see the response. Let me know if it breaks and you need help. We'll spend like 2 minutes doing this. Fire engine. So are we seeing the point of this, how it works? One step further, if you want to make this a true program, let's make this a function. So along with this, you'd write 4 functions you can use. And you can write these down here because of hoisting. So I'll make a function called add. Will this function need any parameters? Yeah, we're going to have to give it 2 numbers. We're going to return the sum of those 2 numbers. Make sure their numbers will do the same coercion here. So now how could I use that in the context of this?
Replace what's in the dollar sign.
We can just call add with our num1 and num2 passed in. Because what will this function call evaluate to? Whatever this returns. So we give it the 2 numbers the user gave us, it adds them together and returns their sum, which will really evaluate right here to something like, show me the number 15. And this is how you want to be writing programs. This may look pretty strange right now, so feel free to write it out. But to show it works the same, I want to add 4 and 7. The sum of your 2 numbers is 11. It called my function and gave me the result.
So that function doesn't have to be above the if statement.
Right, because it's a declaration versus what's the other way to declare a function? Var add equals a function. This is not hoisted because it is a function expression, not a function declaration. So I can only call this function after line 32. But if I just use the function keyword, it's a declaration. It exists everywhere globally. So this is the exercise. So you're going to create a calculator, and adds, multiplies, divides, subtracts, takes 2 parameters. Here's the 3 questions we're asking and what we output to the console. I would create a new exercise for this. So you go through the process of npm init-y, npm install, and going through that, because this is a lot of stuff new today. But don't you worry, we will be using this all next week. Just got to see it before the weekend starts. Little JavaScript node calculator. Yes, thank you, Martin, for that. There is something we never want to push to GitHub. And it's this folder right here. Why wouldn't we want to put node modules on GitHub? Because you can install it if you need it. You don't need to go save it. Someone's already saved it. It's just this is what 2,000 lines of code you don't need on your GitHub. Because there's a couple of advantages to that. For example, if I delete my node modules, now my program's broken because this doesn't exist. But what kept track of me installing this? Package JSON. It's like, wait, you need this package to use this program. Now that the package JSON knows that, if I don't have the node modules, all I have to say is NPM install. It'll automatically check this and reinstall it for me.
So should we put this in a different folder other than exercises? Because I go in and I go to exercises and then I send it. Then that way it takes everything.
Yeah, and that's fine. So there is a way that we ignore stuff, is what we're my long-winded explanation here. We have to tell GitHub to ignore the node modules directory. So the way you do that is inside the project, you create a new file and you name it .gitignore. There's nothing before the dot. It's just dot and then the word gitignore. And I put that in the wrong folder. It should be out here along with everything else. Okay. In .gitignore, any file or folder structures I put in here, Git will ignore it when I try to add new files. So in here, I will say ignore all node modules. And now this won't go to GitHub. So we started with an app.js. We ended up with a node modules folder, a .gitignore, a package lock.json, and a package.json. Let me write this here. So make sure you do not push your node modules to GitHub. Create a .gitignore. Inside of that file, write node modules. And this is why that git status command is nice. Because when you say git add all, it searches your entire assignments folder, regardless of where you are in it, for new files and adds them to be ready to go to GitHub. If you say git status right after you do that, it'll show you a list of everything that was found. If you see node modules on that list, stop. I mean, I can help you remove them from GitHub. It's not too bad, unless we're like 8 weeks in the course and we got to go do it to every assignment. That's always fun. So when you do your git add all, you can always do a git status and see if node modules was added. It will be listed out.
Can you do that for each individual folder?
You can. Additionally, if you don't want, I mean, I think it's a good practice to get used to making this file, but you could put this at the top level of your assignments directory and say ignore all node modules in this entire repository, and the one gitignore would do that for you. I get in the habit of doing it per project because that's more realistic after the course. So we talked a lot, but it's summed down to these steps. Create a package JSON when we're starting a node project. Install the JavaScript code we need to make this project with. Create a gitignore file in the project to make sure we don't push the stuff we're installing to GitHub. And then we can go require it and begin using it. Lastly, this very well may be the last lesson today. I'm going to take the temperature again around 4. Literally, figuratively speaking, I know it's hot in here, but also literally. If it's too hot, it's just not worth it. We have plenty to work on. But this is just going to give you more practice with Readline-sync after the node calculator. So this is going to have you, instead of using numbers, going to take strings from users and follow these steps to get the output that we're expecting. And here's the rules. You have to use readline-sync, and you can make new lines with the / or \n for formatting. But this one should be straightforward. If you read through it, it's asking you to take strings from the user and format them. Like take a word from them, report back to them how many letters there are in that character. So the string's length, basically. So do this one after the node calculator. String manip. I'll put all this in Slack and in Trello. Questions, Readline-sync related, Node or NPM related.
So, we have to have another.
Right, this is only taking care of add. So when I start building my next functionality, else if operation equals subtract, do that operation. Else if operation equals multiply, do that operation. Then one more else if for divide.
So how would you get somebody to
Sorry, what's that?
How would you get like
Another computer? Like,
instead of me putting
we'd have to use a different package. Readline-sync doesn't do that. You'd have to use like sockets or something. That would take server communication because we're sending it to another computer. We'll get there in time. And this is optional. You don't have to write a function for each one, but it is great practice. And then using your functions. So I will pass this out as notes. I won't leave you in the dark on this one because when the project comes, all of this prep work will really help for it. You will be building an interactive RPG console game using Readline-sync next week. So Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we're going to say, you're going to make a game. But that means Monday and Tuesday, we're going to do a lot of prep. We're going to learn while loops. We're going to learn execution, the order of execution, how functions work that way. That looks fun. So yeah, this is just the beginnings of a console game you'll be making.